Hello, my name is Meg Davis and I am a Special Education Coordinator.
Hello, I'm Christina Cotton, Special Education Coordinator.
We presented this information on dyslexia to parents at a workshop that was sponsored through the Parent Resource Center. In this presentation, we will discuss the definition of specific learning disability and dyslexia, dyslexia facts and characteristics, dyslexia and the brain, how to work with schools, interventions in Arlington Public Schools, how to support students with dyslexia at home. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is a law that governs special education. In Arlington Public Schools, we use classification definitions from the Department of Education. Dyslexia falls under the specific learning disability classification and stands alone. Disorders in psychological processes are also included under specific learning disability. These are the two main subgroups of specific. The definition of specific learning disability reads that it is a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself in an imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or do mathematical calculations, including conditions such as perceptual disabilities, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. Specific learning disability does not include learning problems that are primarily the result of visual, hearing, or motor disabilities, intellectual disabilities, emotional disabilities, or environmental, cultural, or economic factors. Dyslexia is a language-based learning disability. It is neurobiological in nature and it affects the phonological awareness skills. This results in problems with decoding and fluency, which leads to comprehension and vocabulary difficulties. Children with dyslexia are poor spellers and often poor writers, and eventually these difficulties often spill over into math and the content areas. It is important to note that the deficit in the phonological component of language is unexpected in relation to the other cognitive abilities. Psychological processes are thinking and reasoning skills needed to learn. We have divided these into two groups, verbal skills and nonverbal skills. Verbal comprehension and verbal reasoning skills are critical skills needed to learn. Our schools and classrooms are very verbal, and this skill is a good predictor of school success. Students with weak verbal comprehension skills may need visual cues and adjusted vocabulary. Working memory is the ability to hold information in one's head, manipulate it, and then do something with it. Students with weak auditory short-term memory skills may need information repeated or broken down into smaller chunks. Nonverbal skills include perceptual reasoning skills, which is the ability to think in terms of verbal images and form mental pictures. Students use eyes and hands to solve problems. These are nonverbal reasoning skills. Children with deficits in perceptual reasoning skills may have difficulty with math, specifically with part-to-whole concepts. They may also have difficulty copying from the board to paper. Uncluttered worksheets, outlines, and graphic organizers may be helpful for these students. Processing speed is the speed in which one can complete a rote visual task. We are looking for automaticity, and students are not using a lot of mental energy. This relates directly to academic fluency. Students who have a low processing speed ability may need extended time for assignments and tests.
Dyslexia is a complex problem that is faced in the very basic brain systems that allow people to understand and express language. The International Association for Dyslexia defines it as a language-based learning disability that refers to a cluster of symptoms that result in people having difficulties with specific language skills, specifically reading. Commonly, students with dyslexia also experience difficulties with spelling, writing, and pronouncing words. Dyslexia literally means a difficulty or lacking of ability pertaining to words or language. However, dyslexia does not represent an overall deficit in language, but rather a localized weakness within a specific component of the language system. This specific component is the part of the brain where the sounds of language are put together to form words and where words are broken down into their elemental sounds, also known as phonology. People with dyslexia have difficulty with developing an awareness that spoken and written words are comprised of phonemes, and this impacts both their oral and written language skills. For people to become skilled readers, it takes much more than just being able to decode words. This model, created by Hollis Scarborough, compares skilled reading to a rope, which consists of many threads that are essential for the rope and skilled reading to come together. Take language comprehension, for example. There are 5 threads that make up this particular skill. In order to fully comprehend, a person must have background knowledge, vocabulary skills, language structures, verbal reasoning skills, and literacy knowledge. Language comprehension skills become more strategic as a person learns and practices using those different skills, and word recognition becomes more automatic with practice. These threads all combine to create a knowledge and strategy base which skilled readers use to read fluently. If any one thread is weak or missing, it impacts a person's overall reading ability. In addition to all of these skills, we also know that a person must have executive functioning skills and working memory skills to support this.
Individuals with dyslexia have normal to above average intelligence. Dyslexia often coexists with other disabilities, including problems with attention, memory, and executive function, which includes overall organizational skills, as well as initiating, working through, and finishing tasks. Dyslexia exists on a continuum from mild to severe. An estimated 15 to 20% of the population have a reading disability. Dyslexia can be hereditary. Dyslexics are often gifted in other areas that don't require language, such as art, music, the theater, math, and sports. Dyslexia can affect reading, writing, spelling, oral language, and self-image. Sometimes these students feel like they are not as smart as others. Boys and girls have an equal chance of being born with dyslexia. Dyslexia is common in other languages besides English. A student with dyslexia is not lazy. He is doing his best. It takes more time and more energy for the dyslexic student to get through the day. Try to imagine the stress and anxiety that some of these students feel on a daily basis. A student with dyslexia is not an incidental learner. The student must be directly taught. He will need explicit instruction. We will talk more about this in a few minutes.
As we've shared previously, dyslexia is neurobiological in origin, or brain-based. The brain can be divided down the middle into right and left hemispheres, as this image shows. Careful examination of brain activation patterns has revealed that dyslexic readers use different brain pathways than good readers. Most of the areas responsible for speech, language processing, and reading are in the left hemisphere, while more concrete, creative, and nonverbal processes are in the right hemisphere. For this reason, we are going to focus mostly on the left hemisphere. Brain imaging has shown that 3 areas are involved in reading. The first reading pathway is Broca's area, located in the inferior frontal gyrus, or right near the temple. This area plays an important role in vocabulary and contributes to the articulation of words and the understanding and recognizing of whole words. This area is active when you vocalize words in your mind. The second area that has been recognized is the left parieto-temporal area, which is located in the back of the brain above the left ear. This area helps to decode words using phonemes. It is much less active in people with dyslexia. The final area that has been identified is the occipito-temporal area, located behind the ears, near the back of the head. In that section, memories of whole words are contained. The more experienced and skilled someone is in reading, the more active this area becomes. Brain imaging studies have shown us that the 2 posterior temporal areas, the parieto and occipito, are underdeveloped in dyslexic readers. Having said all of that, there is good news. People with dyslexia can learn to read. You can see 3 brain images on your screen. The first brain image is that of a typically reading child. You can see that while this child is reading, the Broca's area, parieto-temporal, and occipito-temporal areas are highly engaged. However, if you look at the second brain image, that is the image of a child with dyslexia. While this child is reading, all 3 areas are far less activated. We will call this the before image. Having now identified exactly where the problem is occurring in the brain, we can specifically target reading intervention. The third image is the after image. This brain is the same brain as the second image, however, this shows the different pathways that are lighting up for this child after receiving targeted reading intervention. You can see that both the front and rear areas of the brain are lighting up, similar to that of the typically developing brain.
Students with dyslexia may have difficulty learning to speak, may have difficulty with letter and sound correspondence, with organizing written and spoken language, memorizing number facts, reading fluently, persisting with and comprehending longer reading assignments, spelling, learning a foreign language, and correctly doing math operations. Many people may have one or more of these characteristics, but people with dyslexia have several of these and exhibit these over a long period of time, which interfere with learning. If your child exhibits some characteristics of dyslexia, it is important to know that dyslexia is a lifelong condition. However, with proper intervention, children with dyslexia can learn to read and write. Early intervention is critical, and it's very effective. Instruction for children with dyslexia should be explicit. This is a direct approach to teaching skills. Instruction also needs to be systematic and cumulative. For example, we teach easier skills before hard ones. We also teach high-frequency skills before skills that are less frequently used. Instruction also needs to be structured. We have to have step-by-step procedures for introducing, reviewing, and practicing skills. Immediate and corrective feedback is critical. Teachers model skills and use clear language. Lastly, instruction needs to be multisensory, which is engaging the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic channels. We see students speaking, reading, writing, and moving during these lessons. When parents are concerned about their child, they can work with the child's teacher or administrator. Parents may request an Intervention Assistance Team IAT meeting. This is a general education initiative, and it is a collaborative effort to develop plans for students in need. Many issues can be resolved at this level. If needed, the IAT team may help recommend a possible referral to either the 504 or special education process. These processes are similar. However, in the end, children who are eligible for a 504 plan will receive accommodations as needed, whereas children who are eligible through special education will receive an IEP, which includes specialized instruction as well as any needed accommodations. The next several slides show accommodations that may be used with students with dyslexia. We will point out some of the commonly used accommodations. In thinking about accommodations for presentation, using a visual schedule, writing directions paired with oral directions, using short, simple instructions, graphic organizers, and clarifying and simplifying directions is very helpful for students with dyslexia. The use of audiobooks can be very helpful for some students with dyslexia. Presenting smaller amounts of work, getting a copy of the teacher's notes or PowerPoints, breaking subject matter into smaller chunks, shortening assignments without compromising skill development, and modified tests without compromising purpose can also be helpful for some students. Accommodations for setting may include small group instruction, small group for testing, preferential seating, scheduled and prompted breaks, as well as a quiet space for students to work. Some accommodations for response may include additional wait time word processor for written assignments, voice input and output software, and accepting oral responses for assignments and tests as opposed to written responses. We all know those students who have wonderful ideas and can express themselves beautifully in verbal form. However, they really struggle to get their ideas onto paper. In regards to accommodations for the schedule, extended time for assignments may be one of the most helpful accommodations for students with dyslexia. They simply need more time to do their work. We can also break down long-term projects and use mini interim due dates. Some students have difficulty in large crowded hallways, so allowing students to be released and/or arrive early to or from a class can be extremely helpful. Additionally, breaks during class and breaks during tests may benefit students with dyslexia.
Arlington Public Schools offers several research-based interventions for students who have reading disabilities, which can include phonological processing deficits, such as dyslexia. According to the International Dyslexia Association's position statement on effective intervention for reading disabilities and dyslexia, an intervention should include explicit, systematic, cumulative instruction designed to promote understanding, memory, recall, and use of spoken and written language. There should also be multiple components which target phonological skills, phonics, word and analysis, spelling, word recognition, and oral reading fluency, grammar and syntax, comprehension, and writing. Although our interventions may vary in specific techniques, duration, intensity, and materials, each intervention provides multisensory, explicit, systematic, cumulative instruction designed to promote understanding, memory, recall, and use of spoken and written language. Additionally, all APS reading interventions should be paired with core language arts instruction that utilizes evidence-based practices to target phonological skills, phonics, word analysis, spelling, word recognition and oral reading fluency, grammar and syntax, comprehension, vocabulary, and writing. At the elementary level, our interventions include phonographics, Orton-Gillingham, Spell Read, My Virtual Reading Coach, and Read Naturally. At the secondary level, our interventions include Orton-Gillingham, Read 180, System 44, My Virtual Reading Coach, and Read Naturally. While APS has a variety of ways to support your students while they are in school, we also note that it is important for parents to support their students while at home. Establishing a routine at home for homework is very important. This would not only address their academic needs, but also addresses their possible executive functioning needs as well. Exposing students to books and in-text reading each day is vital. This can be done in a variety of ways, such as reading books aloud together, allowing your child to listen to audiobooks, or reading with a buddy can increase their exposure to texts that they may not be able to read independently. Often, students with dyslexia who also have executive functioning challenges will benefit from having mini deadlines and assignments chunked in a way that is more manageable for them. Additionally, communicate with your child's classroom teacher if homework is taking too long. Their workload may be adjusted to meet their needs. There are also a number of fun multisensory activities you can do with your children at home. For instance, you can make letters and numbers for younger children using Play-Doh or sticky notes. Using sound tiles during homework to help them learn their spelling words is a great idea too. Getting creative and playing games around a treasure hunt to reinforce the skills your child is studying in school can be useful as well. Using technology at home can have a huge impact on your students. The Arlington Public Library has a vast number of audiobooks available. Providing organization support, such as the use of a calendar or graphic organizer, may be very helpful too. Taking time to talk to your child about dyslexia may be appropriate as well. Your child may have questions about dyslexia, and knowledge, reassurance, and support from you could be critical. We all know that children with dyslexia have difficulty reading, but this should not be the only thing about your child that is focused on. Make time for your child to explore and expand their other talents. Often students with dyslexia are exceptional artists or talented in sports and music. Help them hone in on these talents and celebrate them for it. The URL listed above is a link to the top 5 lists from a mother of a child with dyslexia. She gives tips on reading, memory, spelling, organization, and handwriting from a parent's perspective that you may find helpful. Assistive technology may be required to assist a student to access their education. This may include note-taking, writing, reading, or organization. It is considered in every IEP under the Considerations section, and there's a county-wide assistive technology team that may be consulted, or a student is referred for an assessment by the IEP team when the school-based team cannot meet the student's needs or requires additional assistance. There is an assistive technology referral process. The IEP team makes the referral. An assessment follows the 65-day timeline. This includes the student observation and interview, a consultation with members of the IEP team, a possible trial of the device and/or strategies if appropriate. The team uses the SETT process to determine what may be required. Recommendations, if the team decides they are required, are then included in accommodations and modifications. This slide describes some websites that you may find helpful. Through the collaboration of the Department of Student Services and the Department of Instruction's Office of English Language Arts, Arlington Public Schools has created a dyslexia awareness website. This website can be found via the APS English Language Arts site. Here you will find a variety of information, including but not limited to information on interventions provided to serve students with dyslexia, classroom accommodations and supports, as well as common areas of strengths and difficulties for students with dyslexia. We would strongly encourage you to visit this site for more information. In closing, thank you so much for your time and viewing this presentation.